was Justin Fields, who is having a hell of a season, right? He signs a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's in this quarterback battle with Russell Wilson, but it never really felt like a quarterback battle. It felt like Russell Wilson was going to get that job. Russ doesn't start the season because of an injury, and now I don't really know how you go back to Russell Wilson as a default with how well Justin Fields is playing. 6 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play. He did have his first turnover-worthy play this past week against the Indianapolis Colts, but almost 1,000 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. He's not lighting the world on fire, but you go to adjusted completion percentage, it's the best of his career, over 80%. You look at some of his stats against the Indianapolis Colts, and it wasn't his best day, but certainly when you look at Justin Fields and how he has played over the last couple of years, Seth, it felt like when the Indianapolis Colts got up in this game, the earlier versions of Justin Fields, you would basically just mail it in. You'd be like, all right, well, we're on to next week. And he's playing at a level where you don't really get to think that anymore if you're an opposing defense. And if you're a Steelers fan, it's got to be great news to them. So when you have watched Justin Fields through the first 4 weeks of this season, what have you seen from him and some of the progressions?
Well, I think they're a fascinating team right now, the whole Pittsburgh Steelers. And with that offense, they're 3-1, and they really could be 4-0. They're like a bad snap away from being 4-0, potentially. And if I were to tell you before the season that was the case, that was going to be their record, so close to being undefeated after 4 weeks, you would have said the defense is playing lights out, which they are. It's, again, a top defense, top 5 defense. But you would have said they're running the football really well. They're doing all the other things other than just drop back passing. They're running the football really well. They're screening it really well. The play action game is doing great, and Justin Fields is using his legs. And none of that's true on this offense. Now, I will say the caveat is it is right now kind of a mid-table in terms of efficiency on offense. But I kind of believe it has a chance to turn the corner because I think some of the underlying metrics have been really good and really paint a good picture going forward. Like I said, can't run the football, can't play action, can't screen. And the play action stuff is the thing where I'm really interested in them going forward. They're calling play action a lot, something the Steelers fans will be amazed to know that a team is allowed to do, considering the last 4 years of Steelers football. They're the number 1 play action team in terms of volume, but they're not having those big plays. And Arthur Smith is known for that stuff. We've seen him have really good play action offenses over his years in Tennessee and then in Atlanta, even with kind of mid quarterbacks. The fact that they haven't hit any really chunky playoff play action tells me they're going to hit some.
Yeah, right.
And they kind of need that in that offense because right now they really don't have an ability to create outside of kind of George Pickens down the field,
right,
on the sideline. Justin Fields is not a quarterback that's going to throw over the middle of the field unless it's off play action. So you get that ability to say, okay, we can control the entire field now. They're doing a good job throwing outside the numbers. Again, when you have George Pickens down the sideline, you can do that. But they haven't been able to throw between the numbers on drop back pass. Now, Fields' pass grade, his passing grade, PFF passing grade on drop back passes is top 5. So I just look at it and say, he's doing really good things. You talk about the turnover worthy plays. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. He's checking down the ball accurately. His accuracy metrics are the top that he's had in his career so far. Again, it's only 4 games. So the fact that all those kind of underlying metrics are really good and the offense has kind of just been mid, I think there's a chance that it breaks out and it could happen against this Cowboys team on Sunday night.
I've been so impressed with what Fields has been able to do, and so this past week was a little bit tougher. I think that it was the performance in which he looked the most confident. I went back and I watched some things against the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm not sure if they were just doing things post-snap that he wasn't expecting to see, but there were a couple of instances where it's a cover 2 situation to the sideline. He's got the flat route. The cornerback isn't dropping deep. You had I can't remember if it was a corner route or just a vertical route where you had the whole shot. He actually had the ability to hit that in between where the corner was and the safety was, and he didn't take it because I think for some reason he looked over in that direction and he was like, oh, I didn't really think that I would have this open here. Whether or not that was George Pickens, I think maybe goes into this play. I can't remember if the wide receiver was him or not, because it's been the George Pickens show. I mean, you mentioned how much better this offense can even be, and that's really saying something, because it is a really good passing offense right now. They're playing the game very efficiently, and yet they're still not hitting on play action. We think that will come at some point in time, and there's not really any other options outside of Pickens. They're basically running this passing offense through one guy. He has a 25.8% threat percentage so far this season, which is by far the most on the team. And then when you talk about passes of 10 or more yards down the field, like you said, they don't do it a ton. Pickens is 64.3% of the threat percentage on this team when throwing the ball 10 or more yards down the field. It's basically the only player that he looks at. So, look, I know that Roman Wilson was a healthy scratch this past week, but they kind of need him to get up to speed, because they sort of need him to be like a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type of a player when you throw in Pat Freiermuth as well. Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, I think that they will give you some splash plays, here and there some weeks, but I don't think that they're players that Justin Fields is going to particularly rely on unless it's underneath stuff. So I also have been really impressed. It was a tougher day for Fields. You get behind the 8 ball and you really got to be able to come back in the passing game. But again, sort of how I set this up. If I was watching the Bears version of Justin Fields, I would have given zero thought to them coming back in this game. And he's just a different type of quarterback now. The time to throw is a little bit less. He's more confident. He doesn't think that a check down is the worst thing in the world, and sometimes that's exactly what you need to do. And so I have been super impressed with Justin Fields. I really have. And like you said, some of the quote-unquote easy stuff, when they get another wide receiver in this offense, when they're able to hit some of these play-action shots, like, it can look even better than what it looks right now. So it is a hat tip to what Fields is doing in this offense.
The concern is the personnel, though, because, yeah, you talk like Roman Wilson, like, he's been a healthy scratch. Like, I don't know if that changes. Like, we don't know. But they need to go and trade for like Devonta Adams right now. Couldn't get Ayuk in the summer. They need to go and get somebody, because that's really going to be the concern. And it's not just that; it's the offensive line as well. You lose Troy Fautanu for the season. Yeah. He was going to be obviously a big piece as a rookie.
Right.
James Daniels, they just lost their guard. I think he's our highest graded run blocking.
Yes, he's had an awesome year. Yeah.
They lose him for the season. They haven't played, Isaac Samalo hasn't played yet. He'll be back at least. So it's like, you say all this stuff. You're like, hey, everything's trending in the right direction for them to have some breakout performances on offense. And then the personnel just slaps you in the face, basically. You're like, well, it like throws cold water on you when you want to talk about the Steelers team. But yeah, I think the play action stuff is super important, because, when I watch them against the first four games of the season, you're getting a lot of just, I hate to call it like rock, paper, scissors, but that's kind of what it is sometimes, where it's like, hey, we're going to call this play action play. A lot of play action designs on offense are really like for a specific coverage, right? There's 2 receivers running routes. So you need to be able to, you're dealing with a very specific thing on offense, and you need to see that very specific thing on defense to be able to throw it. And they just haven't had that. Like, you look at the Chargers game where they weren't very good on play action, and Chargers play a lot of zone, and there's routes that are running into Chargers zone defenders. And it's like, Arthur Smith has generally been good at finding and like calling them at the right time against the right defense. And they just weren't in that game. You look at the Denver game, Denver plays a lot of man coverage. They don't get separation versus man coverage, and that's a personnel problem.
Right.
So it's like, I think these things will regress positively. And again, I say it again, but like, if there's one team that's going to allow you to have some big holes in coverage, it's right now. It's the Calgary. Jesus, it's the Dallas Cowboys. It's the Calgary Stampeders.
Yeah, I mean, they are having a tough year. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. If they're, it's a tough matchup for Calgary, no doubt. No, but I think actually, so what you're saying and what you're explaining, and maybe there's a little bit deeper that you can go with this, but maybe it just kind of is what you said of like certain concepts that you're calling with play action against certain defenses. I don't know if you've seen a trend in any way, shape, or form with like some of the play action plays that the Steelers have called. Like, okay, they're obviously trying to, like you mentioned at the very top, Fields. He's not really a natural at throwing over the middle of the field. So are they calling these play action concepts to open up like the middle of the field? Are they calling them, do you think, to more attack, like more vertically, things like that? But before you answer that question, I think that from what you are saying, it's even more encouraging for Justin Fields that you've noticed that the play action plays that they have called haven't exactly been against the defenses they've wanted to see them against, and yet Fields has not forced the ball into one of those situations. That's huge, because I feel like he absolutely would have done that over the last 3 years. And so, again, those are little things where, I think that I don't say this as an insulting way at all whatsoever, because I view the game like this as well. When I'm watching live, you're watching the football. And even when you like watch things back and they'll show the replay and you'll zoom back a little bit, you'll get more of an all 22 angle. Like, you could sort of see things, and it's tempting for a quarterback, especially of Justin Fields' talent, to just be like, no, this is the play that we dialed up. I'm going to go trust my guys. I'm going to go throw the football. And I think that got him in trouble a lot when he was in Chicago. And we are just, I really hope I'm not jinxing him here. I hope that we're not jinxing him. But we're just not seeing that from him. He's not pressing like he had been in the past. And I think that the Steelers have a good formula where he doesn't feel like he has to. That didn't really exist for him in Chicago. So maybe there's a little bit that goes into it there. But, specifically when you look at those play action concepts for the Steelers, do you think it's more of opening up that middle of the field? Do you think it's more of taking more of those deep shots? What do you think with how they're sort of dialing these up right now?
Well, I'll put a nice little statistical bow on what you're saying. Justin Fields is tied for the lead, the league lead in checkdowns thrown off play action. So and it's something that you just see all the time. And like, he's getting pressure and he's able to get the ball out accurately to the flat. And it's like something where, like, I'm not saying he's throwing checkdowns and they're going for 50 yards, but you have like a 7-yard sack that is instead a 1-yard gain off a checkdown, which is obviously important.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think with this play action stuff, they are trying to hit the middle of the field on these, and they just, like I said, they just haven't been able to. There's two types of play action that they do. Well, two types of play action that every team does. There's that like play action where you set up in the pocket, and there's play action where you boot around the corner. They're a heavy play action boot around the corner team. And he's thrown to the flat a lot in those instances, and they haven't had that. So on these type of plays, usually it's a 3-level concept. So you have a low route, a medium route, and a deeper route. The deeper route is generally a takeoff, like run away, just run really fast down the field, and it'll expose kind of the coverage, but we're not really going to throw that route. But we're really trying to get is that chunk play with a receiver coming at like 15 yards from the backside of the formation, running across the field. And they haven't hit that play. They've run it a lot. They're very high in their plays where they run boots. They haven't hit that route a lot. They've thrown to the flat route a lot. That'll just happen. Like, eventually they're good. Like you can't, I don't know if there's really like a thing that defenses are doing other than like they're just in the way often of that route. So I think that'll regress back to the mean. When you look at where they're trying to hit the ball, when they drop back, when they play action and stay in the pocket for Fields, it's that same area. It's like that 15 to 25-yard range between the numbers. They just haven't hit that route. Again, it's partly a defense thing, partly a play calling thing, but I think it's something that will regress back to the mean. And if it does, and Justin Fields keeps playing kind of turnover-free football and keeps playing well in the drop-back passing game, in the quick game, he's been really good in quick game, slants and quick outs and hitches and stuff like that, then I think there's a chance this offense really explodes. Again, the water that I'm pouring on myself is really the personnel is not great. Right. But like, why not be excited? Like, why not think that this is Justin Fields turning the corner? Like, I don't know. Like, Arthur Smith is a really good OC, and I think that helps a lot. But I hope, you know what I mean? This is a guy that I really thought was a good player coming out of Ohio State.
Hmm.
I very quickly decided maybe he's not that guy, I think it would just be fun if he did become that guy in his second stint.
Yeah, clearly, the building blocks that he's putting down can lead to a very fun quarterback, like what you said, like what he was at Ohio State. And it's understandable when you get through the timeline of how Chicago, I think when you look at what they're able to do on offense and the receiving game they have now, I mean, even now they're struggling on the offensive line, but this was Chicago had the worst receiving core in the NFL 2 years ago, right? And so it's like, I don't think the people who were defending Justin Fields while he was in Chicago were necessarily like completely wrong. I do still think that it was time to move on, especially with the opportunity to draft Caleb Williams at number 1 overall. You sort of reset the timeline there with the rookie contract window, and I think it was right to move on. But there are legitimate reasons, I don't even want to call them excuses, as to why Fields was maybe taking a little bit longer to get to this point. But now he's in a new situation. He gets to have sort of a new identity as a quarterback, and I think he's really embracing that. And I think that you're right. When we get to the point where the more intermediate stuff is going to be open, can he hit that consistently? Because now you're talking about an offense that, like you said, is going to be humming, and that's one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. I think it's always going to be a great front throughout this season as long as those guys are healthy. So that's going to make for a great defense, especially with some studs that you have behind him as well. So Steelers defense, they're going to hold up their end of the bargain, it feels like, for a large portion of this season, as Mike Tomlin's units often do. And if Justin Fields can continue to give them a little bit of juice there, they got to get way better at just traditional run game. I mean, because you said, like, they stay, for as good as Justin Fields has been, they want to run the football. And it's just, you look at Najee Harris's numbers, like, before contact, it's not good. And the offensive line's got to get better. Unfortunately, the injuries make it a little bit tougher. But it is exciting to watch Fields. Fields is making up for some of those deficiencies, and he's becoming a version of the quarterback that we saw. You know what? I don't even want to say like at Ohio State. He's becoming like a different type of quarterback that's even more efficient, and it's better. It's this sort of like Renaissance Justin Fields of what a lot of people thought wasn't possible. He's giving us a glimpse of that, and saying it is.